Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Stephanie Bree. Today we're talking about high school sports or athletics. What's the difference between athletics and sports? I don't know, two words that mean the same thing, I guess. So, I don't know about other countries, but in the United States, from basically first grade on, they bombard, or rather harass, children into exercising, and specifically by joining sports clubs. In elementary grade age, it's Pee Wee sports and Little League. And then in middle school and high school, it's JV and varsity league, junior varsity and varsity league. And then in college, it's just college. And then after that, they kind of try to encourage you, if you have the skills and the talent, etc., to go on to the pro leagues, the NFL, the NHL, the NBA, the MLB, etc. WNBA, let's not leave them out. But we're just specifically talking about the high school variety. So if you somehow manage to successfully dodge the incessant bombardment of you gotta join a sports club in grade school, they're going to pick it right back up by the time you get to high school. The coaches are actively recruiting athletes, and the non-coaching teachers are actively trying to push students into athletics. And they'll say things like, well, maybe you're not cut out for football, but try volleyball or baseball or track and field or something. Because they have this obsession with trying to get you to be active, which I am vehemently against. But that's neither here nor there. But in a good number of the states in the U.S., you are required by law to have a certain number of physical education credits, PE credits, in order to get a high school diploma. Which is obnoxious because you don't need a PE credit or to pass a physical to get your GED, which is a high school equivalency degree. Well, general education degree, but it's essentially a high school equivalency. But it is sort of different from a high school equivalency, but it is whatever. We're not getting into that. But now, a lot of these high schools know that there's a lot of kids that, well, they don't like PE for one reason or another, also known as gym class. So they get creative and they say things like, well, if you have a certain number, if you take a certain number of sports, those will count as your equivalent PE credits. But what happens, now obviously if you're in a big school with hundreds of students, you're going to have multiple sports to choose from each semester. You know, your standard sports are football, volleyball, basketball, baseball, softball, track and field, sometimes soccer, sometimes badminton. And the one that they play in all the movies that I don't think is a real sport, but they play it in the movies, I think they call it squash or something like that. I can't remember. I don't know. Or, I don't know. The one where they're chasing the little ball in a basket with a tennis racket? And again, some schools have tennis. And if you get into the bigger schools, then you also start to get things like wrestling and swimming and other things. But if you're in a small school, like mine, my high school only had like 120 students K through 12, and we were a K through 12 campus. So we did not have enough high school age kids to really compile much of a team in any sport. So we only offered football, volleyball, basketball, track and field. That was it. And in my school, like a lot of small schools, you don't have to really try out necessarily because there's just not enough kids. So everybody automatically makes the cut just for showing up. So I signed up for basketball, went to practice, threw up at the end of the practice, and the coach very non-politely told me to get the fuck off his team. And I obliged because I didn't want to be on that fucking basketball team anyways. Later on in my high school education career, before I decided to drop out when I still thought I was going to try to graduate, I was really trying to get those PE credits without ever taking a PE class. And so I signed up for track. And I did you had to do two in our school, which I think is probably standard, 2 events. You had to do a running event and a non-running event. My running event was the 800 meter, which is just 2 laps around the track. I always, 100% of the time, was the last to finish. Usually I was finishing up the first lap. Everybody else was done with the goddamn race. And then you had to do a non-running event, unless you were a, dedicated runner, I guess. And my non-running event was shot put, because my track coach thought I could throw that metal ball. I was lucky it missed my toe. That's how far I threw the goddamn thing. As in, plop, it didn't go. The motherfucking thing's a lot heavier than it looks. I was scared to try discus because I thought I would accidentally decapitate somebody, and my coach agreed, because I'm not very well coordinated. Now, there's the high school athletics you see in the movies, which I will maintain is not very accurate portrayal of what really happens. And then there's the what really happens. What you see in the movies is a bunch of kids that suck at sports, that pat each other on the back and get an inspirational speech midway through the movie and somehow bring home a championship every time. No. That don't happen. That's not real. No. That don't happen. You know how many championships my high school had? 4 in a 30-year history. Yeah. We don't go there. We didn't have a trophy wall. We had a couple of trophies on a bench. And that's the case for a lot of small town schools. Get out of there. Get out of there. So, in my experience, what really happens is you get a bunch of jocks, aka normally I would say dude bros, or the female equivalent of a dude bro. And jock is a friendly word for saying jerk, which is a nice way of saying assholes. Not always, but by and large, they usually fit the stereotype of the over testosteroned asshole. And that's it. That is high school sports in a nutshell. A bunch of assholes being taught how to be assholes by assholes who were assholes in high school. I'm not a fan. Now, I have friends who were in sports as a kid in high school who were not assholes, who will tell you that it's not necessarily everybody. That wasn't my experience. Maybe your experience was different. But I do know that by and large, your jocks tend to be jerks. And that's all I can say. I don't really want to talk about sports anymore.